And I think what everybody is very essentially focused on now is very much about identities, and there's many different avenues of that, but there's no aspect of technology and modern business operations that in some way does not revolve around identity and access.
I'm John Generone, Editor-in-Chief of Tech Edge. Thrilled to be here in San Francisco, California at RSAC Conference 2025. I've got with me right here the CTO of BeyondTrust. This is Marc Maiffret. Marc, thanks for joining.
Yeah, absolutely. Thanks
for
having me.
Marc, I want to talk a lot about BeyondTrust, but I can't help but ask about your background, especially the FBI rating you when you're 17 years old. Can you tell us a bit about that?
Yeah, very different times. So, going back 20, 30 years, that was essentially how you would learn, right?
Yeah.
Now there's an entire industry, as we're present at right now, that's very formal in what it does. But as a teenager 30 years ago, the way that you would learn about security was essentially to break into other companies, break into universities. That became your kind of laboratory now. These days you can set up and do online hacking events and bug bounties, get paid to do it. There's a bunch better paths, but certainly was a fun way to learn back then.
Yeah, I bet. So let's talk about BeyondTrust. So what you're doing is allowing people, based on their profile or what their role is, to have different levels of access. Is that kind of the idea?
Yeah, essentially at the heart of what we see in every breach is attackers that compromise the right identity, that has the right level of access to information, the ability to disrupt. And so when we think of all the different identities, whether it's your own kind of personal human account into a company, a machine identity for kind of business to business transactions, we want to make sure all those identities have the right amount of privilege and nothing more. So that if one of those identities becomes compromised, the kind of blast radius effect around it is minimal as possible, and the time at which you know it is as soon as possible.
So I'm just trying to think of an example of something bad that could happen. So let's suppose someone compromises my identity. I guess what someone could do pretty easily is email my staff and tell them to go buy something or send them money, that kind of thing?
Absolutely. I mean, it's one of those things that attackers will look for any foothold into an organization to start with.
Yeah.
So they'll start at any point that they might compromise, and then they try to kind of find a different path to information that they want, the ability to have more privileged access within an environment. And so a lot of times in our industry, we think in terms of what are the most privileged accounts. And so we think of our IT administrators, cloud operators, et cetera.
Yeah.
I think one of the things that we try to bring a lot of awareness to is that every account can potentially have different paths to privilege, where your account has different relationships, connectivity within a business, and that can lead to further kind of compromise. So we try to illuminate what are all those different paths and try to clean them up.
I see what you mean. This reminds me a bit, I'm going to share a little personal story here. So as a journalist, I was at the Wall Street Journal, and I had a contact in an investment bank, and I knew his colleague was working on a deal. And I was like, man, can you go into his computer and check? He's like, I'm sorry, because he's like, I'm blocked. I have to have his identity to look at those files. I can't open an Excel sheet. So is that sort of in the same vein of what you guys are all about?
Yeah, I mean, that's a good example there of kind of least privileged shouldn't have access. Doing that across the company and at scale, knowing where your data and what systems you want to protect and how do you kind of right-size privilege becomes very challenging.
Yeah.
To do that in a way that isn't also just creating a lot of friction. Like no business is really, minus maybe a security company, no business is in the business of actually wanting to do security. Most businesses exist for all the other reasons they do. And so you can't just be kind of saying, no, you can't do that, no, you can't do this. So part of what we do is not just to kind of be the policeman of identity and privilege, but like enable the secure access to resources that you need, right? So we don't create that kind of extra friction that a lot of times can exist with security.
I got you. Now, can you tell me like what kind of typical clients you have and what kind of organizations need your help? I mean, maybe an investment bank could be a good example.
I mean, we have the spectrum of decent percentage of the Fortune 500 all the way down to SMBs, and I think that's the thing is different sized companies will have different levels of adversaries. So certainly if you're a large bank, nation states, other sophisticated actors are going to be targeting you. But we've also seen where you can be a company or even a city that might not be necessarily a thing that you would think a nation state would target, but they have the right access, right information that makes you part of a campaign. And so it's really a spectrum of companies And we look at how do we take a lot of times what happens at sophisticated organizations and kind of democratize that down for everyday businesses, right? To have the same level that maybe a sophisticated bank might have.
Gotcha. Now, let's talk about the conference if we can for a moment. For those of you who are not here, there are thousands of people downstairs, like literally.
A lot.
So it's hard. It's a little bit overwhelming. No, it's not a little bit. It's very overwhelming.
Yeah.
So anything down there jump out at you? Do you come across any really interesting businesses? Any themes? I mean, everybody's talking about AI, of course, right? But anything else jump out at you?
Yeah. I mean, I obviously AI is just disrupting everything, but I do actually think that. We've been through multiple different phases in the kind of security industry. We used to think about having like a very secure perimeter, keep everybody on the outside. Then the perimeter became, let's protect all of our individual computers, and that saw the rise of companies like CrowdStrike, et cetera.
Yeah.
And I think what everybody's very essentially focused on now is very much about identities, and there's many different avenues of that, but there's no aspect of technology and modern business operations that in some way does not revolve around identity and access, right?
Yeah.
And we think that's that kind of core principle, that first principle of security of you need to solve for those two areas of identity and access, and we're not alone in trying to do that. There's many other companies kind of looking at that, but I think the approach of what we do is very unique.
Gotcha. Mark, are there any, I want to talk more about BeyondTrust if we can, are there any upcoming or recent solutions or products you guys have launched you want to tell me about?
Yeah, we actually just launched our recent platform called Pathfinder. So brings to bear all the expertise of BeyondTrust in a single platform. As a CTO, I got to say platform 6 times in the interview. But the reason that the platform matters is that most of the time security is thought of in these different domains of there's traditional IT, there's folks that are focused on your cloud environment, folks that are focused on your desktop environment, on users, etc. And these silos that exist in IT don't exist for attackers, and in fact it's what allows attackers to typically compromise a company is they'll start in one area, move to another. And so those silos create kind of a visibility disconnect of what is the overall picture and understanding of what I'm doing from security. And so our part is not to bring a complete picture of all things to security, but from an identity and access perspective, we do want that single platform where you can understand everything across cloud, SaaS, traditional IT, what's happening from an identity security perspective, where your gaps are, and then most importantly, what you can actually do about them.
So, Mark, there are folks here talking about all kinds of different cyber attacks, and when it comes to the kind that you're looking at, what has the trend been? Have they been on the rise, and is it a steady increase, or does it ebb and flow?
Yeah, I think it does ebb and flow in different ways, but I think the thing that continues to be a rise is very famously years ago, it was put that software is eating the world. Every company is a technology company in some sense. I think one of the side effects is that as companies have become more based and ingrained in technology, there's been a big rise in kind of machine identities, all of the different systems that are able to talk to each other and communicate. Most security, when we think about it, terms like you've heard, like phishing and other things, usually we're talking in terms of protecting that kind of human account, right? The machine identities that are behind the scenes running most businesses, that businesses are more dependent, frankly, than they usually realize. That is an exploding area of security, a big focus of what we're doing to bring visibility to that and kind of create solutions for how do you actually secure those things.
Makes a lot of sense. Mark, if I might just ask you, this is not a question I planned, but it just popped in my mind. A lot of times when there's a breach, there's somebody who made a mistake at the company who accidentally clicked on the wrong thing in an email. Is there anything you can do to make people smarter about that? Because these guys are getting, they're very crafty. I get emails sometimes and I come close,
I mean, and with the advent of AI, like knowing what's real or not, I mean, that's a problem society-wide, right? What is real or not anymore is interesting. But I think a lot of times there's, of course, training and awareness that you can do, but much more focused on what are the safeguards or controls. You shouldn't have to have your employees become security experts if you have the right kind of guardrails there. They should be able to do whatever it is that their job entails in a frictionless way, and security is seamless. Easier said than done, but it's definitely a goal that we try to have with customers.
Great. Last question, Mark. I'm just going to kind of give you the floor here. What are you most excited about right now in the next year or two? Any projects you guys are working on?
Yeah, I mean, I think what we're doing from a platform perspective is really important, but I think anytime there's a new area of security, so identity being a huge focus of the conference right now, huge focus for us, you always see the kind of phases go of bring visibility to the new problem space. Once you have visibility, it feels really good, but then you go, oh crap, what do we actually do about this problem? I think that's where BeyondTrust is very unique in terms of actually having solutions to kind of the identity and privilege problems, and not just the visibility across it all. And so for us, definitely continuing the path of what we talk about, of this kind of path to privilege, right? What are all the different ways in your business that an attacker can gain access to sensitive data, systems that could disrupt the business? We want to highlight all those and then give you the controls to kind of do something about it.
Great. All right, we're going to leave it there, Marc. It's been a terrific interview. I really appreciate you joining our show here.
Yeah, thanks so much, man.
This has been Marc Maiffret, who's CTO at BeyondTrust. I'm John Janarone, signing off from San Francisco.